EKGK Kids.
The Magical Hat Story. Emma loved to read books, especially that had magic and wonder in their hearts. That night was Emma's birthday. Her dad came home with a huge birthday present. Emma opened the present with a gigantic smile on her face. What a surprise! There was a big strange hat on the box. The hat was exactly looked like the magical hat in her new storybook. But it was a little old and rusty. Emma was very happy. She wore the hat immediately and ran to her room. She picked up her book and opened it. She started to read the story, page by page, until she reached one magic spell written in one of the pages. But something really strange occurred. It was the hat. It was moving. Emma thought that it is just her imagination. 'Cause, who can believe that a hat moved by itself? So Emma read the spell again. This time even louder. Unbelievable! The hat moved again. Emma grabbed both sides of the hat and pulled it over her head. But something even more strange happened. Hat started turning very fast. Oh please! Calm down for a moment. I don't know the real spell. I just read it from my book. Please just keep it down. Emma shouted desperately. After a while, hat stopped moving. Emma opened her eyes. But it was nothing like her room. Everything was different. She took off the hat and looked around carefully. OMG! Where is this place? She yelled. Emma was standing in the middle of a glorious castle. Emma was shocked. It looked exactly like the castle in her book. At first she was thrilled because she saw the magical castle. Her wish finally came true. But on that very moment, a purple dragon crossed the corridor. Emma changed her mind. She had to go home as soon as possible. Emma hid behind some big stone and covered her face with her magical hat. But she realized that the dragon is talking to someone on the phone. Yeah. Don't worry. I'm on my way. Your potion is in the magical lab. I'll take it and bring it for you. Emma smiled. She remembered the magical potion in her book. She followed the dragon very slowly to find the magical lab. She thought to herself, if I go to the lab, I might be able to find a way back home. After a while, she was in front of the lab's big door. There were many recipes for different potions all over the place. Between all those recipes, Emma found a very interesting one. A magical potion for fixing magical hats. There was also a picture of a hat on that recipe which it was very similar to the one Emma was wearing. She started to making the potion. She tried to pour the potion on her hat. She wanted her hat to be new and shiny again. And who knows? Maybe if the hat is repaired, it can take Emma home again. When she poured the potion on her hat, it started to move and turn and some beautiful colored lights appeared around it. Emma closed her eyes and tried to read the spell again. She repeated the spell several times. Suddenly, a severe wind started blowing and lifted Emma. After a few minutes, everything felt normal again. Emma opened her eyes and found herself in her bedroom, healthy and safe. From that day, Emma had the most beautiful magical hat on her shelf. Actually, she was very careful not to read any spell out loud again. The Flute Player. In a village alley lived a little boy named Birju. His parents worked as laborers in the fields, barely managing to make ends meet. One day, Birju was playing near his house when he heard the sound of a flute. Birju, Kishan, where is this flute music coming from? Kishan, oh, that must be the flute player. He comes to the village to sell flutes every couple of days. Birju quickly runs towards the direction of the sound. Kishan, hey, leaving the game midway, where are you rushing off to? Are you afraid of losing? Birju, I can never lose, wait, I'll be right back. On the other end of the alley, Birju spots the flute player. He had several flutes tied on top of each other, some played from the front, some from the side. Birju, how much does a flute cost? A young man, with beautiful eyes, smiles and looks at Birju. Flute player, the one in front costs 1 rupee, and the one that plays from the side costs 2 rupees. Birju, oh, but I only have 50 paisa. Flute player, that's okay. Take a flute now and pay the rest tomorrow. Birju, alright, brother, give me the one that plays from the front. The flute player hands Birju a beautiful flute. Birju, but how do I play it? Flute player, it will cost you an extra rupee for that. Birju tries to blow into the flute but doesn't produce a good sound. Meanwhile, the flute player plays a beautiful tune on his flute. Birju, brother, I think you gave me a faulty flute. It's not playing properly. The flute player takes the flute back, washes it with water, and starts playing it beautifully. Then he hands it back to Birju and says, Flute player, the flute is fine. You just don't know how to play it. Birju, please teach me. What harm will it do to you? I'll teach my friends, and they will also buy flutes. Flute player, alright, but there's a condition. The flute you took costs 2 rupees, and the one that plays from the side costs 3 rupees. I'll teach you for free, but there should be some benefit for me. The flute player starts teaching Birju how to play the flute. After 10 days, Birju learns to play the flute well. One day, Birju's father comes home and tells him, Father, son, I've enrolled you in school. You'll start going to school from tomorrow. Birju starts going to school the next day. Sometimes, he would see the flute player at the school gate. Birju shows his friends how to play the flute and tells them to buy flutes from the flute player and then he'll teach them. Many children in the school buy flutes. Birju teaches some of them, and the flute player teaches others. Slowly, as Birju studies in school, he grows up. One day, Birju comes home and says, Birju, father, I've got a scholarship. Now I'll go to the city and study in college. Birju gets admitted to medical college. He works hard to become a doctor. One day he becomes a doctor. He is very happy that day. But there is no one at home to share his happiness with. He quickly goes to his hostel and starts playing his flute there. Whenever he remembers the village, he starts playing the flute. Later on, he comes back to the village. His parents had become very old. Birju, after getting a job, I'll bring you both to the city. You don't need to work anymore. After meeting his parents, Birju meets his friends. Birju, has the flute player come? I want to meet him. Kishan, no, he hasn't been here for many years. I don't know where he is. Birju, do you have any contact information for him? Kishan and the other friends refuse. Birju becomes very sad. He had developed a bond of love with the flute player. A few days later, Birju starts working in the city. He goes to the flute player's place with the remaining 50 paisa. The flute player starts teaching Birju how to play the flute. After 10 days, Birju learns to play the flute well. One day Birju's father brings a man home who had fainted. Birju, what happened to him? Son, I don't know. Last night he was not feeling well. Birju checks him and asks for some tests and x-rays. After receiving all the reports, Birju goes to him. Birju, uncle, you have symptoms of TB. Do you consume any drugs? Uncle, no, son. Birju, okay, rest now. You'll get a week's leave and then start taking medicine on time. You'll be fine in a year. But don't be careless. Uncle, can I play the flute? Birju, your lungs are very weak. How can you play the flute? As Birju says this, he stops. He looks closely and realizes it's the flute player. Birju, oh, it's you. Flute player, doctor, do you remember me? Birju, I forgot. You taught me the flute for free. I'm Birju. Tears roll down the flute player's eyes. Birju, don't worry, you'll be fine. I think playing the flute so much has weakened your lungs. The flute player is very happy to meet Birju. He starts getting treatment in the hospital. One day Birju is at home. Suddenly the phone rings. Birju goes to the hospital and sees that the flute player has passed away. He had his flute in his hand. Birju, who gave him the flute? Son, Dr. Sahab insisted a lot. He said nothing will happen. Birju Bhaiya will save him. Tears roll down Birju's eyes. The Sparrow and the Monkey. Once upon a time, there was a pair of sparrows living on a dense tree in a jungle. They had built their nest on that tree and were happily living their lives there. Then came the winter season, and this time it was very harsh and cold. To escape the cold, one day some monkeys shivered their way under that tree. They were trembling from the cold winds and were very troubled. After sitting under the tree, they started talking to each other that if only they could find some fire to warm themselves, the cold would go away. Meanwhile, a monkey's gaze fell on some dry leaves nearby. He said to the other monkeys, "Let's gather these dry leaves and burn them." The monkeys gathered the leaves in one place and started finding a way to set them on fire. The sparrow sitting on the tree was watching all this. Unable to resist, she spoke to the monkeys, "Who are you guys? You look like humans, with hands and legs. Why don't you build your own homes instead?" Upon hearing the sparrow's words, the shivering monkeys got annoyed and said, "You mind your own business, we don't need your advice." After saying this, they started thinking about how to light a fire and began trying different methods. In the meantime, one monkey noticed a firefly in the air. He shouted, "Look, there's a glow in the air, let's catch it and use it to light a fire." Hearing this, all the monkeys started trying different ways to catch the firefly. Seeing this, the sparrow said, "This is a firefly, it won't light a fire. You guys can rub two stones together to make a fire." The monkeys ignored the sparrow's words. After many attempts, they managed to catch the firefly and tried to use it to light a fire. But they were unsuccessful, and the firefly flew away. This left the monkeys disappointed. At this point, the sparrow spoke again, "Listen to me, you can rub stones together to light a fire." Unable to control his anger, one monkey climbed the tree and destroyed the sparrow's nest. Seeing this, the sparrow became sad and scared and started crying. After that, she flew away from that tree to another place. Lesson from the story: it is not necessary to give knowledge or advice to everyone. Advice should be given only to those who are wise and understand things. Giving advice to a fool can lead to one's own harm. The crooked-mouthed fish. There was a fish named Saul, whose mouth was a bit crooked. There's a story behind why its mouth was like that. A long time ago, in a sea, there lived Saul fish along with many other fishes. There was always a competition among them to see which fish could swim the fastest. One day, an elderly fish said, "Let's end this competition once and for all. Let's have a swimming competition. The fish that wins will be considered the fastest swimmer." Everyone agreed to this idea. The competition began. All the fishes were trying to swim as fast as they could. Sawfish also participated in the competition. They all had to swim to a distant sea plant and then return to the starting point of the competition. Some elderly fishes were standing there to determine the winner. A tiny Hilsa fish won the competition. When Saul saw that it had lost the competition, it felt very jealous of the Hilsa. It muttered, "This tiny, ordinary Hilsa fish swims the fastest." That's all Saul could say before its mouth remained crooked. Even today, sawfishes have crooked mouths. So, the next time someone does something better than you or surpasses you, try to learn from them instead of being jealous. Don't twist your mouth, or else. The ascetic cat. In a forest, there was a chakor bird living in the hollow of a tree. There were many other trees around that tree, bearing fruits and seeds. The chakor used to feast on those fruits and seeds and lived contentedly. This routine went on for many years. One day, while flying, another chakor perched on the branch of the same tree to catch its breath. They had a conversation. The second chakor was surprised to learn that the first one was living only by eating fruits and seeds from trees around. The second chakor said, "Brother, in this world, there are many delicious things to eat besides fruits and seeds. You should try them too. Crops grown in fields are exceptional. Change the taste of your food someday and see." After the second chakor flew away, the first chakor pondered. It decided to explore the nearby fields the next day and taste the food called grain. The next day, the chakor flew and landed near a field. Wheat crops were growing there. It ate some grains and found them delicious. It enjoyed the meal so much that after eating to its fill, it closed its eyes and fell asleep there. Even after that day, it kept returning there, eating and sleeping. After 6 to 7 days, it felt like going back home. Meanwhile, a hare was roaming around in search of a home. Due to waterlogging in the area, its burrow was destroyed. It came near the tree where the chakor lived and found it empty. Claiming it as vacant, the hare decided to make it its home and started living there. When the chakor returned, it found someone else occupying its home. Angered, it asked, "Hey, who are you, and what are you doing in my home?" The hare, showing its teeth, said, "I am the owner of this home. I have been living here for 7 days, this home belongs to me." The chakor burst in anger, "7 days? Brother, I have been living in this hollow for many years. Ask any bird or animal around." The hare interrupted, "It's simple. I came here, found this hollow empty, and decided to live here. Why should I ask anyone now?" The chakor replied angrily, "Wow! Just because a home is empty, does it mean no one lives there? I am telling you for the last time, vacate my home peacefully or else." The hare also retorted, "Or else what? This home is mine, do whatever you want." The chakor felt dismayed. It went to neighboring animals seeking help and justice, making a lot of noise, but no one came forward to help. An old neighbor advised, "Escalating the conflict won't be right. Both of you should negotiate." However, a compromise seemed impossible because the hare wasn't willing to leave the hollow under any condition. Finally, a fox suggested, "Turn both of you into judges and seek resolution from a wise animal." Both liked the idea. Now, they wandered here and there in search of a judge. Eventually, one day, they reached the banks of the river Ganga. There, they saw a cat deeply engrossed in meditation. The cat had a mark on its forehead, wore a sacred thread around its neck, and held prayer beads, looking like a devoted ascetic. Seeing the cat, both the Chakor and the hare were delighted. Where else would they find a wise judge like this? The hare said, "Chakor, why don't we seek resolution for our conflict from this cat?" The Chakor was also impressed by the cat but was a bit hesitant. It said, "I have no objection, but we should be cautious." The hare was completely swayed by the cat's aura. It said, "No. Can't you see? This cat has renounced worldly illusions and become an ascetic." The truth was that the cat was pretending to be a devotee to trap naive creatures like them. To further impress the Chakor and the hare, it started chanting mantras loudly. The hare and the Chakor came near and greeted with folded hands, "We bow to Mother Cat." The cat, smiling, opened its eyes slowly and blessed, "May you both be blessed. What troubles you, my children?" The Chakor pleaded, "Mother, we have a conflict between us. We want you to resolve it." The cat blinked slowly and said, oh my. You shouldn't quarrel. Live with love and peace." It then gave some advice and said, "All right, tell me, what is your quarrel?" The Chakor explained the matter. Just as the hare was about to speak, the cat raised its paw to stop and said, "Children, I am quite old and my hearing is weak. Come close to me and speak directly into my ear so that I can understand the cause of your quarrel and give you justice." Both approached the cat closely to speak into its ears. The cat was waiting for this opportunity. It let out a meow and in one swift move, took care of both the hare and the Chakor, having a comfortable meal afterward. Little Fairy and the Poor Woodcutter. There was a separate world of fairies that they had adorned with their magic. It was a city more beautiful than heaven itself, where every fairy lived happily. All fairies were skilled in magic. Queen Fairy had given everyone a wand. It was a magical wand that had built this entire world. Every human on earth wanted to visit this world once, but it was beyond anyone's control. Queen Fairy had a little daughter named Khushbu. She spent her days flying around in the fairyland. Khushbu had a small wand with her that, whenever she pointed upwards and said, "Take me to the sky," she would instantly reach the sky. From above, the fairyland looked very beautiful. One day, as Khushbu was flying, she suddenly reached above the clouds. She couldn't see anything below except clouds. After a while, when she descended, she realized she was heading towards Earth from fairyland. Khushbu got very scared. She tried to turn back to fairyland. That's when she collided with a bird, causing her wand to slip from her hand and fall down below. To find her wand, Khushbu had to descend to Earth because her magical powers would also diminish soon without the wand. As Khushbu descended, she found herself in a forest. She got very scared. She went to a grassy field to search for her wand. After searching for a long time, when she couldn't find her wand, she started crying. On the other side, Khushbu's crying caught the attention of a woodcutter's wife in a nearby house. She woke her husband up and said, "I think a child is crying." Hearing this, the woodcutter picked up his axe and went outside. His 5-year-old son Mohit said, "Father, I'll come with you so that the child doesn't get scared seeing the axe." Both the father and son went in the direction from where the sound was coming. The woodcutter sees a little fairy crying. He starts approaching her. Mohit says, "Wait, father, let me go and ask." But the woodcutter says, "No, son, what if she harms you? It's better if I handle this." Mohit insists, "Father, my mother says we should always help someone in trouble. Even you are here to help her." Hearing this, the fairy turns back and gets scared. She starts moving away, but Mohit stops her and says, "Don't be afraid, fairy queen. I've come to help you." The fairy Khushbu says, "My mother said humans should not come here." Mohit tells her, "My mother says we should always help someone in trouble. My father is also here to help you." Upon hearing this, Khushbu says, "I accidentally strayed far from my home. My magical wand fell, and I can't go back home without it." Mohit tells her, "Come to our house for now. Stay there, and in the morning, we will find your wand. There are many wild animals here who could harm you." Khushbu agrees and goes with him. Mohit tells his father everything. They all reach home. Mohit's mother is very happy to see the little fairy. She says, "Khushbu, you are our guest. Stay here comfortably, but don't wander outside at night, otherwise, someone might see you and capture you." Khushbu is very happy. Mohit's mother gives her food, which she enjoys and says, "This is very delicious. I will tell my mother about it." The next day, as the sun rises, Mohit and his father set out to find the wand. Despite searching for a long time, they couldn't find the wand. Disappointed, they return home in the evening. Khushbu becomes very sad upon hearing this. She remembers her mother and starts crying. Mohit and his mother console her. The next day, the father and son go to a new place to search for the wand again. When they couldn't find it anywhere, they go to the market to buy groceries for their home. While the woodcutter was buying groceries, Mohit notices a wand displayed at a nearby goldsmith's shop. It was shining like gold. Mohit sees that it's the same wand that the fairy described. He tells his father everything. The woodcutter approaches the goldsmith and inquires about the wand. The goldsmith says, "Someone sold it to me. It's made of gold." The woodcutter says, "I want to buy this wand at any cost." The goldsmith asks for a very high price. Hearing this, the woodcutter says, "All right, you can take my house and land in exchange for it." The goldsmith agrees. He tells the woodcutter, "I'll come tomorrow, meanwhile, vacate your house. Here's the wand." Mohit is very happy to get the wand. They all return home. Mohit gives the wand to Khushbu, who becomes very happy. Khushbu says, "You have helped me a lot. I will always remember you and come to meet you." Mohit's mother says, "That's fine, dear. We are also very happy to meet you." Together, they bid farewell to Khushbu. With the help of her wand, Khushbu flies past the clouds to fairyland. After she leaves, the woodcutter and his family become very sad because they lost their home and land. They spend the night packing their belongings. Just then, the goldsmith arrives. The woodcutter, along with his wife and child, leaves their belongings in a cart and departs from there. The goldsmith takes possession of their house. On the other hand, when Khushbu returns to fairyland, her mother, the queen fairy, becomes very happy. Khushbu tells her mother everything. The next day, Khushbu comes with her mother, Queen Fairy, and other fairies to meet Mohit and his family. But no one was there. Queen Fairy sends her soldiers to search for them. The soldiers venture into the forest and eventually find the woodcutter and his family. They bring all three of them to Queen Fairy. Upon learning the entire story, Queen Fairy says, "You risked everything to reunite my daughter with us." Mohit's mother says, "We considered her our daughter. She was very sad to meet us. Therefore, her happiness meant more to us than anything." Queen Fairy, out of gratitude, sends double the amount of gold for the wand to the goldsmith and reclaims the house and land for the woodcutter. Mohit and his family are reunited with their home. As they enter their house, they find a treasure trove of gold and silver inside. Queen Fairy says, "This treasure will never be empty." Mohit's mother says, "We didn't do all this out of greed." Queen Fairy says, "I'm giving you this happily, and yes, we will keep coming to meet you." Queen Fairy takes Khushbu and leaves. Mohit and his family start living happily in their home again. Parul's ice cream. As soon as school ended, Parul ran to the ice cream vendor. "Parul, brother, quickly give me a chocolate ice cream." Grabbing the ice cream, Parul hurriedly boarded her school bus waiting in front. Just then, her friend Muskan approached her. "Muskan, Parul, you eat ice cream every day. Your teeth will get spoiled. My mom doesn't even give me money for ice cream." "Parul, you know I really like ice cream. I can do anything for it. My parents don't even know that I eat ice cream. But if they try to stop me, I'll stop eating food altogether but won't give up ice cream." Muskan fell silent. Parul finished her ice cream and threw the stick outside the bus. Shortly after, the remaining children also boarded the bus, leaving Parul at her doorstep. Parul and Muskan both got off the bus. Muskan lived near Parul's house. Upon reaching home, Parul's mother, Shakuntala ji, served her food. But Parul refused to eat because she didn't want to ruin the taste of the chocolate ice cream that was still lingering on her tongue. Parul was restless every day, wanting to eat ice cream. One day, during school lunchtime, she saw the ice cream vendor near the school gate. "Parul, brother, give me one ice cream." Even though the gate was closed, Parul managed to get the ice cream from the side railing. She ate the ice cream and threw her lunch in the trash bin. During break time, she again got another ice cream. "Muskan, you had ice cream just this afternoon. Now you're starting to eat ice cream again." "Parul, I really want to keep eating ice cream." Muskan tried to explain a lot, but Parul wouldn't listen. Now, eating ice cream became her daily routine. She filled her stomach with ice cream instead of food. After eating ice cream during the day, she would insist on her father buying her ice cream at night. Her father, Ravi ji, would take her to get ice cream. Months passed like this. Gradually, Parul's health deteriorated. Her parents took her to the hospital, where the doctor examined her and said that she had stopped eating. Parul had a lot of pain in her stomach. "Parul, doctor, please arrange for ice cream for me from somewhere. Please." Thinking she was just a child, the doctor arranged for ice cream for her. As soon as she ate the ice cream, her pain subsided. "Doctor, since when has this been happening?" "Parul, doctor, if I don't get ice cream, my stomach starts hurting." She told the doctor, Shakuntala ji, and Ravi ji everything. "Doctor, your daughter has become addicted to ice cream. Her liver has become so weak that it can't digest anything else now." Hearing this, they were all worried. "Ravi, but doctor, what's the treatment for this?" "Doctor, until the child's mind gets rid of ice cream, she won't eat anything else. Her body now craves ice cream. She'll have to give this up on her own." "Shakuntala ji, but how?" "She doesn't even want to listen." "Doctor, do one thing, take her somewhere where she hasn't been before." After hearing the doctor's advice, Ravi and Shakuntala took Parul to an ice cream factory. There they showed her how ice cream was made. It was a very dirty place, with mosquitoes and flies everywhere. Ice cream was being made from dirty water. The milk used for making ice cream had many flies in it. Seeing all this, Parul's mind was disturbed. Just then, an employee brought ice cream and started giving it to Parul. "Parul, Yuck! Uncle, you're making ice cream in such a dirty way, and many children are getting sick by eating it. I got sick myself outside my school from your ice cream. Saying this, Parul threw the ice cream away. Ravi and Shakuntala were very happy. Just then, food department officials arrived to raid the place. They sealed the factory and arrested its owner. Ravi had called them after seeing everything. Inspector, Ravi ji, they used to mix a chemical in this ice cream that made children addicted to it, and they couldn't stay without eating ice cream. Parul, sir, they should get a severe punishment. Inspector, son, this is a big crime. They will definitely get a big punishment. After that, Parul never ate ice cream again, and her treatment continued for many days. After that, she recovered completely. Story of Ant and Lion. In a jungle, a powerful lion ruled over the entire forest. He was very proud of himself, and all the animals in the jungle were afraid of him. One day, the lion was wandering in the jungle when he saw a line of ants. Lion, hey, where are you all ants going in a line? Ant, we are searching for food. In such a big jungle, we might get lost, so we are following this line. Lion, this jungle belongs to me, I am the king here. You shouldn't be afraid of me. Ant, what fear do we have? You can eat big animals, that's why they are afraid of you. We are too small for you to bother with. Lion, alright, I will crush all of you in one go. You will all be finished. Ant, go ahead, we don't have time for this now. Let's meet another time and you can try then. Lion, wait, let me show you now. Saying this, the lion tries to step on them, but they enter into a small hole where the lion's paw can't reach. The lion gets very angry. While the lion is in anger, a cheetah approaches him. Cheetah, what's the matter, Your Majesty? You seem very troubled. The lion tells the cheetah everything. Cheetah, just leave it, Your Majesty. I will tell you a way to teach these ants a lesson. But don't tell anyone about this plan, or the other animals in the jungle will stop fearing you. This will not only harm you but also me because I get the leftover food from you. Lion, forget all that, just tell me the plan. Cheetah, near a tree, there is a beehive. We will bring some honey from there and place it on a leaf in the field. When the ants come to eat it, you can crush them under your paw. Lion, but how will the honey come down from such a height? Cheetah, Your Majesty, I will ask the honeybee for some honey. Lion, alright, tomorrow morning bring the honey to the field. The cheetah goes to the honeybee. Cheetah, honeybee, give me some honey. Our king lion is not feeling well, he will eat honey. If you don't give honey, the king will break your hive. The honeybee gets scared and gives honey to the cheetah. The next day, the cheetah brings honey to the field and waits for the lion. Meanwhile, the news of the lion's illness spreads to other animals. This news also reaches the ants. Ant, friends, look, the lion has collected honey to trap us. So, from today onwards, no ant will come out of its nest. Only 4 of us will go and face that lion. The next day, the lion and the cheetah wait in the field with the honey placed on a leaf. The 4 ants slowly approach the lion and cheetah. The lion and cheetah keep an eye on the leaf. 2 ants quietly climb up the lion and cheetah and enter their ears, biting them. The lion and cheetah start itching and scratching their ears. In the meantime, the leaf is moved from their sight. After that, the 4 ants pick up the leaf and carry it to their nest in the roots of a tree. The lion and cheetah keep scratching their ears for a long time. When they realize, they see that there is no leaf or honey there. Seeing this, the lion understands that winning against ants is not in his control. The lion goes near the ant's nest. Lion, sister, forgive me, you are small but you defeated me. Now, I will never be proud again. The gift of the vulture. A king set out for hunting. He saw a vulture. It was a huge vulture, and its wings were so long that several people could stand in its shadow. After a year passed, the vulture said, "Now it's time for me to give you your reward. Ride on my back. I want to take you somewhere." The king sat on the vulture's back. The vulture spread its large wings and flew away. It flew far from the king's palace. Gradually, they left behind all the villages and cities. Now the vulture was flying over the sea. When the king looked down, he got worried. Far below, there was a vast spread of sea, and they were flying at a great height. Anxiously, the king began to pray to God. After some time, when the vulture descended, the king thanked God. The vulture said, "King, I have given you 3 gifts. Keep them safe." "3 gifts?" the king asked in astonishment. "Yes, 3 gifts. I have taught you 3 things. Those are my 3 gifts. The first gift is to be compassionate, the second gift is to keep your word, and the third gift is to have faith in the power of God. Even after losing everything, you kept your word, showed mercy to me by hearing my prayer, and in difficult times, you trusted in God. Now you possess all the qualities to be a good king. Return to your palace and serve your people." When the king returned to his capital, he saw that all his wealth, which had been spent on nurturing the vulture, had returned. It was indeed a miracle of God. He had sent one of his messengers in the form of the vulture. The king ruled for many years. His subjects lived happily because their king was a good and righteous ruler. Priya and the magical birds. Priya was a very beautiful girl. She lived in the mountains with her parents. Priya's father used to take the sheep and goats for grazing. By evening, they would bring them back. In return, the villagers would give them some money, which helped them sustain their livelihood. One day, Priya insisted to go with her father to the mountains. Her father agreed but told her, "Daughter, I will take you, but you must promise me not to wander around alone." Priya agreed. Her father carried her in his arms and took a stick in the other hand, leading the sheep up the mountains. When they reached the mountains, they got tired. Behind the mountains was a large green field. All the sheep were grazing there. Priya's father told her, "Daughter, you can play in this field. Don't go too far, I'll rest for a while." Priya saw many beautiful flowers there and started picking them. Suddenly, she heard a voice saying, "Save us, save us." Priya got scared and started running back to her father. But the voice was so painful that she walked towards where the voice was coming from. There, she saw a small white cloth bag. As she approached the bag, it started moving. A voice came from it, "Set us free, save us." Trembling, Priya opened the bag. It was not fully open when 3 or 4 colorful birds flew out. Priya was frightened, but one of the birds came forward and said, "Don't be afraid, we won't harm you." Surprised to hear birds speaking like humans, Priya asked fearfully, "How are you talking in our language?" A blue bird explained, "We were princesses from a distant land. A magician imprisoned us here. He demanded the kingdom from our father in exchange for our release. Even after getting the kingdom, he didn't set us free." Priya asked, "But what will happen now? How will you return to your real form?" One of the birds explained, "If you break this bag, the magician's magic will end, and we will return to our true form. Our father will also be free then, and we will capture the magician." Priya said, "That's it." Saying this, she picked up the bag and smashed it on the ground. The bag was made of clay and it broke. As soon as it broke, the 4 princesses transformed back to their original forms. One princess gave Priya a beautiful crown, another gave her clothes, and the 3rd princess wore her own clothes. Then they all left from there. Priya watched everything in amazement. After a while, her father came to her. He saw Priya wearing beautiful clothes and a golden crown. He asked her where all this came from, and Priya told him everything. Hearing this, Priya's father was very happy that his daughter had done a good deed. In the evening, they both returned home. A few days after this incident, the king's soldiers came to their house. Priya's parents and Priya were taken to the palace. They were honored in the king's court. The king kept them in his palace. Priya now spent the whole day playing with the princesses. But after a few days, Priya started feeling very sad. She couldn't concentrate anywhere. One day, the king called Priya's father and asked about her sadness. Her father said, "Your Majesty, your palace is very beautiful. But we are mountain dwellers. We feel suffocated here. Even in the broken house, there was a lot of peace." Priya also feels sad remembering the mountains. The king understood their feelings. He sent his men to build a beautiful house for Priya at their place. After that, the king bid them farewell with many gifts. Priya was very happy when she returned home.